And welcome everybody to another exciting episode of Cyber Papa's New Battlefields. I'm glad to have you guys here. We've got an exciting show for you guys lined up today. I am going to bring in a few seconds here John and Tracy, and of course with you guys as my co-host, Cyber Warrior Derek. And today we're going to be discussing diversity in cybersecurity. We're going to be talking about threat awareness and open source intelligence. So if that's what you're here for, stay tuned. And welcome again. Let me bring in my co-host, the Cyber Warrior.
What's going on, Cyber Poppy?
Cyber Poppy in the house. All right. How are you doing?
Dude, I'm doing all right. Doing pretty good. I got a new camera, so that makes me happy.
Looking sharp.
I try.
All right. So today's show is going to be really interesting. Tell me about today's show.
So I'm excited because we've been trying to push Raices very hard. So diversity and things like that in cybersecurity have been huge. And I'm really hoping, especially with it, I believe it's Women's Cybersecurity Day, or I forget what the exact day is. It was either today or yesterday. So I really hope that diversity and things like that really start coming about a lot more. And then, of course, everything else we got going on. I'm excited, especially with our guests. It's been a while since I got to talk to either of them, so it'll be nice to have them on.
Okay, wonderful. For our users that are watching in Facebook, please go ahead and go to StreamYard.com Facebook from a separate browser so that we can see your comments and respond to your question. As well as please, go ahead and give this video a like, share it, get some people in here. It helps us a lot with everything that we're doing here in this show. All right. So with that, let us go ahead and introduce our panel tonight.
Hey.
All right. So first, let's introduce John B.
John,
What's
going on, everybody?
Tell us a little bit about you.
So my name is John Breth. You might know me on Twitter as jbizzle703. I am a network and cybersecurity architect. I have my own company, do some different types of work for different businesses and organizations. My original background is in networking, was in the Air Force, worked for some consulting companies, tier 1 ISP. And really, the main thing I do when I'm not working is creating hopefully useful, content on YouTube and Twitter to help spin new folks up who are getting into the industry about different topics regarding networking and cybersecurity and, other types of tech things. So glad to be here. Really excited to be on here with everybody.
Drop us the channel, the YouTube channel.
CyberInsight.
So everybody here, we're going to have on the description of in YouTube here, I've got all of their links for John on his Twitter and his YouTube. So navigate to that, subscribe to his channel. He gives also support to the community. Thank you, John, for being
here.
And with us too is InfoSec Sherpa, Tracy. Tracy, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first of all, buenas noches, amigos. And John, you're already fibbing right off the start. In your spare time, you're a Pitbull impersonator.
Well, I don't get paid for that.
Yeah. So hi, everyone. I'm InfoSec Sherpa. I'm Tracy Maleeff. I'm a security researcher at the Krebs Stamos Group. You may know me from my many tweets. I used to be a librarian. Now I'm in cybersecurity. And I just try to, be a guide up a mountain of information and just try to heal the world through cybersecurity and better cybersecurity. So I am honored to be here this evening. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And go ahead and tell us about your Medium blog post that you do on a daily basis. It's incredible what you're doing with that, and I wish that more people saw this. So tell us about that.
Me too. Thank you. Yeah, it's infosec Sherpa .medium.com, and I have my daily-ish. I say ish because I try to do it 7 days a week. Some days I don't always get there, but it's a news roundup. I try to find 10 information security, privacy, story, news items, I should say, not stories, news items that maybe have gone under the radar, or definitely things from more around the world that people don't normally see. So, anybody can see all the big headlines. So I try to submit something to the community that's a little bit under the radar, off the beaten path, to help make everyone well-rounded about cybersecurity and privacy news.
That's wonderful. And I'm a subscriber. I watch it. I read it every day. It's incredibly valuable for me as an executive on my day job to go ahead and catch up on things that are happening so that I can help our team focus during the day. So it is a valuable resource, and I'm hoping that many, many more people look at that. I actually put the links in the description there, so please go ahead and navigate to Medium, and the link is in the description there, and subscribe or follow in Medium, and go ahead and give it a read. It valuable, valuable. All right. So I want to acknowledge some people here on the stream here. We got Tom, we got Zoltan, we got Carl, we got Mary, we got Carmen, Jen, and actually Studio Sec says he's trying to Google how to pull off John Breth's look. I don't know. I don't know what's happening there.
Taken many years to get to this point.
And then Mary says that Mr. Worldwide with Baby Yoda partying in the back there. So, all right.
And I'm a huge Pitbull fan, so yeah, this is just doing it for me. So yeah, sorry to objectify you, John, but
I enjoy being objectified. So it's all
okay,
right.
awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, as Eric knows, as Big Papi, I'm a big Pitbull fan.
You gotta
Dale,
dale.
dale.
All right. So with that, let's get into the first topic here. I wanted to talk about diversity in technology, diversity in cyber. We've got various areas of diversity that we want to discuss here. One of them is, the women in cyber, which we've done a couple of shows there. But Tracy, I'm going to ask you the first question here. What have you seen over, the short span that you've been in technology?
Mhm.
How you see the diversity or the growth of diversity for women in cyber or technology? What have you been seeing?
Oh, that's a great question, Eric. Thank you. What I've definitely noticed in the past few years that I've been in this community is there definitely has been a positive explosion of groups, of community groups that are either all women or non-binary folks, or just more or just groups opening up more and being more inclusive for women. So I definitely have noticed that, and that's helpful. True story. When I went to RSA for the first time, this was 2016. There were so few women there that we were kind of doing the jock nod to each other walking down the aisle. Like, see, it's like, oh, what's up, and in subsequent conferences I've been to, there's definitely a lot more. So that definitely has changed. But one thing I do want to say right here is, please understand, for everyone, white women aren't diversity. When definitely more women are needed, But I get frustrated when I see articles about diversity and then they just show all white women. And yes, I'm saying this as a white woman, because these messages need to come from, from me, from us. So yes, while women are still very much needed in this field, remember that there are women of, other races that need to be included as well. So please don't just, think just having a white woman at an event then like ticks a box for diversity. So I just wanted to say that, just come out of the gate here. And maybe it's my Bellini margarita talking, I don't know. But
Hey, that always helps. And then you brought up a very good point of the non-binary women in cyber and technology. How have you seen that grow over the last couple years?
well, the non-binary folks, that's definitely become more pronounced. And I admit that I don't always know the language, but I will research it, or I will ask, or I will do my best to be inclusive. So I just think that language does matter to people. So I think another way to be inclusive is to be mindful of language. I mean, look, there's a famous expression. I did not coin this, but I do like to say it a lot. Diversity is being invited to a party, and inclusion is being asked to dance. And you need to have both in equal measure. So being mindful of wording and things like that is the inclusion piece. So we need to ask more people to dance.
That's correct. I love that phrase. I'm using it too. All right, and same thing for you, John. What um in the inclusion part and the diversity part, how long have you been in cyber, and what have you seen with the inclusiveness with minorities and
Sure.
I guess protected groups? So
So, well, when you say cyber, I'm just going to bundle that all together with IT in general, right?
technology.
Because even though I do cybersecurity stuff, it's really in support of IT stuff. So we'll just call it all the same. So, my background being in the Air Force, the teams there were had a pretty good mix of different folks from different backgrounds. Probably more so than what we would see kind of in the commercial world. So I think I kind of was blessed in having that type of exposure to environments like that, and seeing folks of different backgrounds and different races being in different positions of leadership and things like that. So from my perspective as a younger person coming in, um, I didn't necessarily, or wasn't as aware of kind of the hurdles that maybe existed outside of that, which I think, for myself, that kind of painted a better picture of inclusion moving forward as I kind of progressed through my career. Now, obviously, as I kind of got more experience and I became aware of the other challenges that those folks in those positions had, but kind of starting off and having it be a little bit more broad than kind of your normal tech bro environment that we kind of see, on the commercial side of things, I think that was a benefit in some ways. As far as other types of, I want to say, like groups that kind of help promote things, since I've been on social media, I've definitely seen that blow up quite a bit. I mean, there's a few organizations that I think are excellent. The Blacks in Cyber group, WISP.org, even Kalila Scott's group that she started up, TechSec Chicks, is awesome. I mean, there's probably hundreds of groups that kind of fit into different types of support for different people of different backgrounds. And I just tried, yes, exactly.
And
I
sorry, Women's Society of Cyber Jitsu. How to get that in
Yes, yeah.
there?
gotta get that into.
Gal always
And the
gonna like
reason I
punch me
pointed
for
over
getting
here
that,
is
yeah.
because after the show, I'm gonna put some cards, and we did an actual show with the TechSec chicks. So I'm
Yep,
gonna put that in there.
awesome.
So
So I think that having these kind of organically formed groups that are kind of supporting and providing resources and kind of building on the progress that from the people before them, and kind of bringing together other people that want to help out, I think is definitely very beneficial. I mean, obviously, it's not a fix all for everything, and there's obviously issues that need to be overcome and challenged and things like that. But I like to think that there, at least at this point compared to previously, there's a little bit more support and a pathway for folks from different backgrounds to be able to get into tech and cyber.
And actually, me and Cyber Warrior were talking about that in the inclusive things. At Derek, you want to say anything here?
Yeah, I mean, really, it's one of those things because I look and like you, John, I came from a military background, and so in the Air Force, we had, races, religions, women, men. It didn't matter in all the fields, whether it was IT, on the flight line, like everywhere. Army was the same way. We had men, women, black, white, green, didn't matter in all areas. So when I first started out in this industry, like you, I didn't see an issue. I didn't. But saying that, that's not to say there wasn't an issue.
Right.
And that came from talking to a lot of the women and a lot of the, especially um, black women that I spoke to. Even in the military, there were a lot of issues.
Yeah, for sure.
I had a female friend that was black, and she drove I think a Camaro or a Corvette or something, and they would pull her over getting onto base because of the way she looked, and be like, is that your car? And I'm talking military MPs. This is your sister in arms. This is someone you serve with, and you're really doing this. So it's something that unfortunately still exists even in the military. Though we may not see it, there are people out there that still enforce those beliefs, and it's very unfortunate. But I am very happy anytime I get to have anyone on my show. And I had Tracy on, I've had Keith twice on from TechSec Chicks. And being here on Eric's show is amazing, and being able to just see all the diversity and everybody he can bring together is one of the reasons I love co-hosting the show with him. And I really hope that we can continue to broaden our horizons. And one of the things I said earlier on Twitter was that you can't put yourself in an echo chamber really and come to and really improve security. Because if you do that, you're getting a bunch of yes men or people that just agree with everything you think, and it just doesn't work. Whereas we all come from different walks of life, meaning we've all seen different things. And if you're looking in the terms of an attacker or someone that may be malicious, guess what? They think differently than you do. You need different areas, and I'm sorry, you need people that maybe grew up on the street and grew up in a different completely area than you, to really give you that insight on how these people think. And if you can't do that, if you can't find it within you to really be diverse and grow with that, then you've got bigger problems. And I really hate when we cut people out because of the way they look or because of what they believe or whatever the case may be. It's extremely frustrating.
That's something.
Preach it, Derek. Preach it.
So one of the things that led us to create this new organization that we have, Raices Cyber. Okay, try it. Say it.
Raices.
Raices.
Oh, there you go. I can't get Cyber Warrior to pronounce it right.
It's been Raices. Come on, I did it. You're killing me, Eric. You're killing me.
Okay. So we founded Raices Cyber. So if you guys are not following us yet, go to Raices Cyber Org on Twitter and our website at www.raicescyber.org. We founded this organization. To create more inclusiveness in Hispanic, Latino, and Latina communities, to include everybody. And a very important part is all the allies. So it's not just because this is a Hispanic community or a Latino community. We want to make this an inclusive diversity community, so that everybody that not just likes or supports the Hispanic community, but also the inclusiveness. You know, I actually put a T-shirt on our merch store that said, "You don't have to be Hispanic to support Hispanics." So that's kind of the feeling, the thought of this, and using different people to not only create a mentorship program so that people who have already navigated through this can help the younger community. We've also are working on job matching and networking. As we all know, can I ask you this question? How important is networking in the technology? So I'm going to go with Tracy first.
Oh, it is absolutely crucial. One of the things that I have always talked about, even back when I was a librarian, I always talked about networking with humans. And one of the things that you need to have is a diverse network, for one, because word of mouth for jobs, for example, for hiring, or having a person on the inside who can vouch for you, that's crucial. A lot, so many jobs have been gained because of networking, but what the problem is that too many people don't have diverse networks, so the same people, you know keep getting these jobs. And I'm just going to come out and say it's not necessarily diverse people. It's usually the same networks, singular networks that keep getting referrals and things like that. So I always tell people, your network, your human network, your professional network should not look like you. You should have people younger than you, people older than you, people in other industries, people with different educational backgrounds. Everything different from you as possible, because that's going to make you more robust, because you're going to learn from others. That's going to help level the playing field. It's absolutely crucial. And one of the things that I noticed is that there really wasn't much for the Hispanic population in cybersecurity. So I created, I'm trying to be an ally, so I created just a Twitter list I originally called it Latinx in cybersecurity. I had a Latina approach me and explain that that term isn't, is sort of controversial within the community, and she gave me guidance on some better phrasing, and I accepted it, rather than fight her on it or anything. It's like, oh, okay, thank you so much for showing me that. But I just created that Twitter list because I'm realizing that there weren't a lot of resources, and I was like, we need to be as inclusive as possible. So just trying to do something. And then when Eric approached me about being involved with Raices, I but am I head gringa in charge? Is that my title or something? I think I asked for like Evita or something like that. But anyway, no, I'm very glad to be involved, because I very much believe in diversity, and be the change you want to see in the world. So I'm happy to lend my voice and support to this. But yeah, your professional network needs to be diverse. It's for the good for everyone. It helps with equity.
And John, go ahead.
So I'm gonna approach this from a little bit of a different perspective on that. I agree with everything that Tracy just said. One of the things that I get a lot from new folks that are kind of coming in is they're wondering how to go about networking, right? So like what are the avenues that they should take? And so a few things that I would recommend is trying to get to whatever types of conferences that you can get to. Now, obviously, there's really, really expensive conferences that have a high bar of getting to. The flip side of that is that there's a lot of local conferences and groups which don't cost much money that are a fantastic way. So I'm gonna plug B-Sides here just because I'm going to. um,
Yeah.
which there's tons of B-Sides conferences all over the place. I think it's like 20 or 30 bucks for a ticket, and sometimes those conferences go 2 to 3 days. It's a great spot to not only pick up new knowledge, but then meet people. You can get involved with different types of hands-on things there. And at least from what I've seen in my experience is that almost everybody that's at these events is super helpful and super knowledgeable and very, very willing to open their arms up to people that are new and coming into the industry. So that's one thing. Another thing that I think is really beneficial is you need to put yourself out there. And that's kind of hard for a lot of people if they aren't used to doing that. So if you kind of start creating blog posts or tweeting, or you're on Instagram or you're on TikTok or whatever you're doing, if you kind of start putting things about yourself out there and the journey that you're trying to take towards reaching whatever that career goal is, that normally is going to open yourself up to a whole bunch of other types of networks. People, for like I said, for the most part, are going to be pretty supportive of you doing those things, and it's just going to kind of exponentially improve the connections that you're going to get, versus if you didn't put yourself out there and you weren't going to meetups and you weren't going to conferences and you weren't, you didn't have a blog, you weren't making any videos, you weren't doing anything like that. It's just going to be a bit hard to do any type of networking that's going to have a substantial impact, and it's going to kind of put you behind all the other folks that are doing that.
And that was one of my first. Oh, I went to DEF CON and for 1 and number 2, so been around for quite a while. But B-Sides is such a great organization, and it's got chapters in almost every city in the United States, plus overseas. Actually, in the chapter before last week, on the security happy hour, we had the organizers for Newcastle, England, for B-Sides on the show. So
Awesome.
it's a great organization, great organization. One of the things that we're trying to do with Raices Cyber is we want to use the same kind of model of meetups in local cities across the United States and the world. And one of the things that I want to say in the show right now, this is kind of news, but we are planning for our first meetup in Philadelphia, hopefully here for, by the end of the summer. We're going to start that. We also have volunteers now in Chicago. Actually, we have one of the volunteers on the stream right now for Seattle. We have a couple of ones in California. We have Mexico, Uruguay, Argentina. So we're just starting, and we've got volunteers in those areas that we're going to be talking to do meetups in those areas. So please stay tuned. Go to the website, register to receive the newsletter for right now. Go to Raices Cyber Org for the Twitter. We'll be posting all this information very, very quick. In Shiny, we also have some volunteers right now because that's the next in-person event. We have some in Central Texas that they are looking right now to help us do a show there, or meetups or a team or a group. So if you want to volunteer, go to the website and can help us set these things up. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. And I will say to kind of piggyback off of John, in person has been how I've met a lot of great people. Yes, what's going on right now sucks. And so there's a lot of issues, and some people don't want to go in person, even with vaccines and masks and everything else like that. But if you can, if you're willing to go wearing a mask and being vaccinated and this, that, the third, nothing beats in person. I'm sorry, there's the virtual or not. I can't do virtual conferences. I've signed up for them. I've watched a little bit, but it is not the same. Halftime, if I go to a conference, I barely watch the talks. I go to meet people. I'll go to the bar and have a few drinks. I'll go around the tables and all right, maybe more than a few, but still. But I'll go to the tables. I'll talk to the vendors, and you get to meet people, and you really get to meet a lot of great people. And I've met a lot of great people at B-Sides Pittsburgh, at different logarithm conferences, at different MSSP conferences and things like that. So if you can get to something in person, nothing beats it. But your network still matters. So if you're not on LinkedIn, if you're not on Twitter, if you're not trying to connect, you're really missing out. And on top of that, if you're trying to remain anonymous, I'm sorry. If you want a job in cybersecurity, you have to strip away your anonymity. You really do. Because we have
Say that
to.
word again.
What?
Say that word again.
Anonymity? That's how it's said.
Anonymity.
Anonymity.
All right, whatever.
Dan, that's rough, Eric. I wasn't going to say anything, but
God,
geez.
well, he has to beat me up. He has to beat me up.
My job.
I love him. But yeah, you have to strip that away, because if you're trying to be anonymous, then how are people going to realize you know what you know? If you don't have a YouTube channel, if you don't have a blog, if you don't have something, if you have not networked and interacted with anybody, no one can vouch for you, especially if you're new to the field. Now, if you're experienced in the field and you have a network and you have references, that's great. But if you're just breaking in and you're new to IT, if you're new to cybersecurity and you have nothing backing you, then you're missing out, and you're really losing what you could put in front of people. And I can't tell you, and I said it today to somebody else, to Alyssa Miller, who was dealing with some stuff on Twitter. I told her, I said, I think people forget how small this career field is. And even to this day, if certain companies are hiring, they may reach out to me and be like, hey, do you know this person? If I don't know them, no, I don't. I can ask, or, through my connections with like Tyrone Wilson and stuff. Like if they said they did Cover 6 Solutions in any of his training, hey, can you reach out to Ty and see if you know anything? If he knows this person, then I can do that. And that's how this field is. We're so small that all the courses, all the people, we talk and we know. And I can send out a message, or I can pick up the phone and call someone and be like, hey, what do you know about so-and-so? Oh, he was great. Or I don't know who you're talking about. And if they don't know who I'm talking about,
on a daily basis.
Yeah, it's sad. And so if you want to make it in this field and work for a company, you got to strip away anything that's hiding yourself. You've got to put yourself out there.
So one more thing with that, and I've seen this happen a lot, and I think it's a pretty good way for a new person to kind of dive in real quick. I've seen this happen on Twitter so many times. Somebody who's brand new, and all they do is they ask a question about, let's say, hey, I'm going to DEF CON for the first time. What are the things that I should know about it? And they'll end up getting retweeted like 200 times and end up with like, 100 responses to it. And it's just a great way to kind of ingratiate yourself into those circles, to kind of put yourself out there as somebody that's new. And like, hey, I have these questions about these things. And like I said, a lot of folks that are there are going to be pretty helpful about it.
Yep.
Can I add a respectful asterisk
Sure.
of disagreement to John's comment?
I know where you're going with. I saw the tweet. I know where you're going.
Oh, well, this is a two-parter. So yeah, so I think the first part, where I'm going with this. One of the things that really does irritate me about posting questions like that. Now, John gave a really good example because that was conference experience based.
Right.
But if people tweet a question without having to try to look it up themselves, Derek, is this where you thought I was going?
There, and there's one
I
other
thought
topic
you were
I'm
going to be more
if you don't hit it.
Okay, well, let me finish what I was going to say, and then oh yeah, that's my second point. I know where you're going. Sorry. So my first point is I'm not opposed to helping people. You all know that I help people all the time. But again, there's so much in this industry that you have to troubleshoot and problem solve. And when I see people asking questions without even trying to look it up, I mean, something that I know you can look up on Google, that
25 seconds.
that irritates me, because it's one thing to to say like I researched this and now I'm stuck, this is how far I got. That's different. But I see a lot of these like lazy web kind of questions, and people pile in, and I just want to say, like, let them figure it out, like, or you know like put some effort into troubleshooting. And then the second part is this is also how you kind of find sock puppets and disingenuous folks. They're in. So you have to be careful, because a lot of times that's how what was the word I used? Charlatan. That's a lot of times how a charlatan will try to introduce themselves to the community by being like, "Hey, I'm new. Can you help with things?" And there are charlatans, and there are people who try to take money. I'm not going to, I don't want to invoke their name and have them reappear from the past, but there's been people in just the past few years who have taken money from people, and have infiltrated. So those are the two things that, like I said, nothing, no disrespect to John, I respect your point, but I just want to add some caution that, one, do some research, because to me that just looks very lazy and doesn't make a good impression on me if you're asking something that easily can be looked up with some effort. And then two, I know that everybody wants to help, but just pump the brakes a little bit, like let's see, because that's a lot of times people kind of fall in, and next thing you know, this sock puppet or this charlatan has thousands of followers just because other people have seen everyone else following them. So there's a happy medium there somewhere.
Yeah, for sure. And again, on top of your talk about your charlatan point, that it was just yesterday, I think somebody was talking about it, where there's this guy or girl, I don't know, I think it's a guy, that keeps creating different accounts to stalk women and to harass them, and it was blown up on different media platforms, and they've been blown up on Twitter and things like that, and they just keep doing it. And what they do is that concept, they'll ask a question, or they'll get in with one person who just happens to have a following by hiding themselves, and so they'll get retweeted, or they'll get part of a follow Friday, or something like that. And so now they get all these followers and start stalking and harassing women and things of that nature. But on that, the topic of learning, funny enough, that's how I learned, was by when I was in the Air Force. Our server admin, she was, by God, she was probably the best trainer on top of my actual trainer. But in terms of research, she was probably the best one I ever had, because anytime I went to her with a question, her first question to me was, "Did you look it up? Have you exhausted all your resources?" Because yes, tribal knowledge is great, and if you can feed off of that, that's fine. But you have to understand how to research and how to find answers on your own. If you can't do that, then what if she's not around? How are you going to find the answer?
Exactly.
So
Yeah, and I know I'm biased with my librarian background, but yeah, that is one thing in our community that really does irk me, that people are just so eager to help, which is beautiful, is a beautiful thing. But and I've had people, have time with me, like, want to have a one-on-one interview. So true story, and I apologize if you've all heard this before, but I had this young woman put time on my calendar to talk to me. And first of all, it was a lot of back and forth. I was ready to give up on her because she was not being very receptive to planning a meeting. But I finally was like, no, let me help this person. And as soon as we got on the phone call, all she said was, she goes, "How do you do it?" And I said, but she had more of a vocal fry. So it was like, "How do you do it?" And I said, "Do what?" And she said, "Security. How do you do security?" And I was like, "No, this call's over." Like, no, you can't ask what, like, you need to do some research. That's why I tell people, like, and I don't think I was mean. I mean, if you're not interested enough to have a more specific question, then how do you do security? I mean, I just, my time is valuable, and so please don't be like that person. You know, ask for 15 minutes of someone's time, especially, a busy person like myself. I'm less receptive to an open-ended thing. If you say, "May I have 15 minutes?" Great, come prepared, have questions written out, or have them in your head. Again, things that, say, like, "I looked all these places, but I still don't have a great idea about this." I'm willing to help you for that, but don't ask these open-ended questions that you could research yourself. That's just
You know
not
that
good.
now every time I answer the phone with you, it's gonna be like,
How did you do it?
How do you do it? How do you do security? And I'm gonna hang up on you, Eric.
No, you're not. No, you're not. You love him too much. You won't do that, Tracy.
But yeah, the vocal fry didn't help, but yeah.
There you go,
Thank you,
Mary.
Mary C. So, anywho, yeah. So all these things are important, and actually, if I can give a shameless plug, speaking of this topic, I'm going to be the opening keynote speaker for the Texas Cyber Summit, the virtual version. I think they're doing keynote speakers in person as well, but I'm doing the virtual version, and my talk is, oh yeah, William Bill, exactly, yeah, respect my authority, and is, yeah, Cartman Security. I used to be able to do a really good Cartman voice. Maybe I'll get it back by the end of the uh, I was gonna say meeting. This isn't a meeting, but whatever. Anyway, I'm speaking at the Texas Cyber Summit. Oh, sorry, one margarita and I'm gone, gentlemen. I'm just like,
I'm on my
out.
third Captain and Coke. You're killing me, Trace. Come on. And it's 100 proof.
Oh, nice. So the title of my talk is information literacy leads to better information security. So I'm going to talk about things about research, and about also finding good resources, and also, why it's bad to just start retweeting a tweet that has a bunch of alleged IOCs in it and things like that. Again, people think they're being helpful, but I want people to stop and think, like, am I just piling on to the problem? So I'm going to go through, again, I'm a one-trick pony. I pull things from library science and I equate them to cybersecurity. Sue me, it's my background, whatever. But yeah, that's my talk.
Dewey Decimal in cyber.
Okay, everybody talks to me about Dewey Decimal, and I never dealt with Dewey Decimal.
It's too young for Dewey Decimal. Don't
Yeah.
get it twisted.
Old I am.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, Dewey Decimal is more for school and public libraries. I dealt mostly with the Library of Congress classification, which, yes, I know nobody knows there's different classification systems for books, but I know the Library of Congress. So LOC, represent. So that's the one that I know better, is Library of Congress. But yes, there's medical classifications, and please let me bore the audience with all the book classifications.
You go right ahead.
No, I need to refill my drink. So what's the next topic?
All right, you go refill. Eric, what's the topic on?
Now I'm going to go ahead and move to the next topic, which is something you're going to want to talk about a little bit later, but I'm going to start with these two gentlemen. The benefits to do threat identification and awareness, which, I wanted to talk about the things that Tracy puts on her Medium. But how important is it to a good security program to be aware of what's happening in the world? So what things are happening in the world, and how do you bring that in, do your job better? So, John, let me throw you to the world.
Yeah, so I think that there's kind of an important step in that, because there's so much information out there, is you really need to identify and scope down what are the particular threats to your organization versus just imbibing everything that's out there that is threats, right? So if you aren't really aware of which adversaries you have, and maybe adversaries is a strong word, if you are, a veterinary clinic in Indiana somewhere, but you still need to, protect, I don't know, financial data systems or something like that. Being able to kind of understand that and kind of frame and scope what it is that you're going to be looking for, I think is, probably the first step in that. And then obviously following through on that, making sure that you're getting the information from valuable sources that are correct. And then what are you actually going to be doing with that information once you have it, right? So is it information more to just make, your general awareness of what's going on there? So maybe you're increasing your OPSEC of your organization. Is it things that you're actually feeding into different automated tools to end up providing other types of protections? Really, when you dig into that, there's a whole bunch of different lanes that this topic can really go into.
So I always think about it as, threats, malwares, and vulnerability. So that's kind of what we use in the industry
Mhm.
and say, when we're looking at something that's coming over the horizon, we get a alert or a news, something that's happening, and you see something like print nightmare. It's starting to happen in, follow the sun, like we say, follow the sun. So Asia Pacific.
Right.
So we start seeing things there. And then those news articles start hitting us. How do you take that information and bring it in, potentially do something about it
Right.
or be prepared? So what do you what kind of strategies from that open source intelligence?
Well, again, I think it ends up coming back to are those particular threats and the mode that they will be acted upon. Is it something that you actually have within your organization? You need to, make sure that that's something that you're really concerned with. And then at that point, I mean, I guess depending upon, you're talking about just stuff coming in for news articles, right? I mean, so you have to do some type of risk assessment on, okay, well, what do we think this really is? How is the way it can be exploited? What type of mitigations do we have in place until there's actually some type of fix for this? If you're talking about software vulnerabilities, right? Um, and in some cases, it might even come down to like, yeah, this is a thing, but we think because of the fact that this is more a targeted type of thing than something that just sprayed out across the internet, maybe it's not something that we need to prioritize because we have all these other vulnerabilities that are much more critical that we still haven't taken care of yet, right? So it's a bit of a dance, I think.
All right, so Tracy, same question for you.
Oh, I have a great example of this. Um, so true story. When I was working as a SOC analyst at a pharmaceutical company, I saw, the news headlines, which I do every day, and I saw this one about a certain publisher had a massive data breach. And I remember mentioning it to, um, the higher ups, and they were just kind of like, well, what does that have to do with us? And I was like, they're a publisher of both legal and scientific material. So there's a really good chance that we're customers of theirs. And they were just they were completely, not following me. So I pulled, some I went back into my former career trove of connections. And
What career field is that?
I'm sorry, what was that?
What career field is that?
I was a librarian, but specifically I was a librarian at a law firm. So I was a law firm librarian. So I went back through my notes and found my old sales rep from that publisher and said, "Hey, can you do me a favor? Can you look up who the sales rep is for this company that I'm working at now? I heard you all had a data breach." Was able to get in touch with the sales rep, was then able to get a comprehensive list of, what our deal was with them. I won't bore you with the details, but basically, like, I just knew from my experience that if we were subscribers to them, they were going to have our financial information. They were probably going to have a boatload of email addresses and things like that. And all because I kept an eye on the news. And I'm always looking for things of, how does this apply to us? Or whatever company I'm at, how does this apply to us? Well, when I saw that publisher, it was like, oh, it was a no-brainer. It's like, oh, scientific journals, legal publications. We have a legal department. We have a bunch of scientists. And then was able to, kind of remediate. Well, there really wasn't a situation that I'm aware of, but I was at least able to put some warnings in place and things like that. And I just remember everybody was just kind of dumbfounded by that, of like, how did you make those connections just from an article of a publisher? It's because, you see these news items come across and you should be thinking to yourself, how does this affect us? Does this affect us? Conversely, there was someone before me doing the newsletter for the higher ups at the same company, who would always include articles about like cryptojacking in the daily newsletter. And I'd sit, I'm like, what does this have to do with us? And he'd be like, well, it's a top headline in cybersecurity news. I'm like, but it has nothing to do with us.
It
Like,
has to be contextual.
yeah,
Context.
it had like why yeah, like why are you briefing these higher ups about cryptojacking when that has nothing to do with anything? And if it does seem like if it's off base, then provide some context. Why am I including this? So for me, it was, oh, here's this publisher. Let me connect the dots for you. And then they were all like, oh, okay, yeah, good job. So yeah, it's definitely crucial for for threats to be on top of things like that.
And like John said, on the technical side, these things have to be contextual. They need to have a reason. Look at that. See, even if you have that technology, so not don't just throw a false flag out there and say, "Hey, well, we have this vulnerability over here, but hey, we don't use that technology." Really not a vulnerability. So it's very important that not just the identifying the threat that's out there, but contextualizing it in your environment, not just in industry, but in your environment. There's a vulnerability for Netgear routers. I don't have Netgear routers. Why does that matter to me? So it becomes a noise after a while if you give too many things.
And if you take that a step further, say it was more of a consumer product. It's like, oh, okay, well then we might want to have this information disseminated to our users, for them to have at home. So there's always ways, and I know not every department has that bandwidth to do things like that, but just to think outside the box and maybe to provide more outreach, because approachability is huge when it comes to cybersecurity. So if your end users believe that that the security team is looking out for you, that's a nice way to do it. If you find that consumer products are compromised or need an update or something like that, or oh, be sure to after patch Tuesday, oh, everybody make sure you hard boot, Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, your personal laptops. That goes a long way, because I talk about this all the time in my empathy as a service talk, that you have to build approachability and you build that trust by showing compassion and that you care. And a lot of people like to roll their eyes at me with that, but it works. It absolutely it works. And I've lived it. I've done it. It works.
So I'm gonna chime in because you're not wrong. Um, I, I talked about this, God, a couple months ago, if not
I know
longer.
I'm not wrong, huh?
My thing is, so not only is it with security and or IT and the user, right? And one of the things in the military was people weren't leaving their computers on to be restarted, or they would lock them and they wouldn't restart because they had a document open or whatever. So it was always stated, restart your computer first thing in the morning so it can get the updates and everything can install this at the third. But here's the problem I see in the private sector and in industry is there's this disconnect, not only between the security and the user, but security and IT. So IT does not want to be part of security, and or security doesn't want to be part of IT. And so they clash and they're like, oh, we can't update because of X, Y, and Z. And security's like, well, you have to update because of A, B, and C. So just do it. And so instead of coming up with a path forward, instead of coming up with a solution or a way to make these things happen, they clash and they butt heads. So it's this whole problem where you'll see in a lot of younger companies, or less mature, I should say. You don't really see it in a lot of your more established companies, even though they have their own issues to deal with. But in a lot of your less mature companies, you see this problem where security and IT are completely segregated and they don't talk, they don't work together, they don't develop a plan. And so security's whole mindset is no, 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 you can't do that. No, you have to listen to us. No, you have to do this. So it takes away from business enablement, because now to be secure, you have to do these things, but you're not working with IT so that it can be accomplished. You're trying to just get your way, and it doesn't work that way. You have to work together. And when we're talking about threats, when we're talking about vulnerabilities, when we're talking about malware, no matter what it is we're talking about, again, to the point, if I don't have a Netgear switch or a certain VPN, then why is security worried about it? Well, probably because you haven't shared a network diagram or something with them so they know the actual freaking network. So if you're not sharing, and if you're not sharing information, then everything they see becomes huge, especially if it's a CVSS of 10 and it's like it affects all these firewalls, but maybe not Palo Alto. Well, you're a Palo Alto network, but for some reason, security doesn't know that, for one reason or another, but as an explanation. So if they don't know that, then they're like, dude, you need to fix your shit. We're Palo Alto. Why do I need to fix anything? Well, oh, wait. Oh, well, you should have told us. And it still becomes a fight. So if you're not speaking, if you're not talking to each other, if you're not really integrating as a unit, then you miss out on so much, and you don't enable
Well,
business.
in my talks, I always say you can't secure what you don't know you have.
Exactly.
Okay? So if you don't know that it's in there, how am I going to find information to try to secure it?
And I have a great example of this. I was in a meeting one time, and meeting with like Derek just said, the IT side of the company, and they proactively came to security and asked for a meeting because they wanted to get a software program and they wanted us to sign off on it, which was wonderful. However, our team came in with a little bit of an attitude, which is also something I see in security. And at one point in the middle of the meeting, one of the tech people, the manager, said, "Why do I feel like we're being punished because we came, to run this past security?" And that took my breath away. I was like, he's absolutely right. So I spoke up to try to shift the tone of the meeting, and in the end, everything, I'm going to say, I'm not the one responsible for saving it, but I was the first one to speak after he said that. And because of right away in my head, I was like, oh, this is a huge problem. Like, yes, like he feels like he's being being punished for asking us about it. And you should never ever 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 have anyone feel like security is a punishment, or that that they're being punished for talking to security about something. So I feel like in the end I was able to help salvage that. But oh man, that was like a gut punch, because I mean, I don't feel like that I was one of the ones doing it. But again, just kind of witnessing everything play out, because again, I talk about this a lot. But yeah, to your point, Derek and Eric, that yeah, like you need to be one team. And too many people in security, that's the first thing I noticed when I joined cybersecurity world. There's a lot of people with attitudes and chips on their shoulder. And there was a tweet going viral recently about why are IT guys such jerks, or something like that, and people were giving these examples. And they were just things like, because I drove 2 hours to find out that something wasn't plugged in or whatever. And I looked at a lot of the responses, and I thought to myself, if there was a little bit more empathy and better questioning and better curiosity and troubleshooting, you probably could have avoided that 2-hour drive. I mean, yeah, yeah, I know there's always exceptions, but
Yeah, I've been in
some of,
that position, and now, granted, I haven't had to make that drive, but
yeah.
I have been in the position when you're like, is it turned on? No. Okay. Is it plugged in? Yes. Are you sure it's plugged in? Yes. Are you positive it's plugged in? Yes. All right, I'm gonna come check it out. And you get there and it's not plugged in.
I know,
Or the power
I
strip
know
is
there's
turned on.
always exceptions, but I was just going on some of the responses that
Yeah.
people gave, and there was all these like, I walked uphill both ways in 6 feet of snow for 5 miles, and it wasn't plugged in or whatever.
The
But
going to school, the going to
yeah,
school theory. Yep.
exactly. So yeah, I mean, I also have to, you have to understand that even though I was a law firm librarian, because at the law firms, because the help desks were so backed up, people would often call the library for help. So I've done my fair share of tech support. Yes, I know you're, but we got the job done. And well, do you want me to share my one tech story? It's actually kind of funny.
Actually, I do. As a librarian, I want to know your tech story.
Okay, sure. So it was probably, so of course it's the way that all stories begin. It was like 5 till 5 on a Friday in the summer. So all I want to do is just get out of there. And one of the senior partners calls all cranky saying that she was trying to get an article from this one publication and something was wrong. So, got the information, go to the website, and I saw the HTML error, and I was like, oh, their server's probably offline. I'm like, either they're doing maintenance at a bad time of day, or they've had some other issue. And I'll tell the short version of the story is she goes, we'll try a different browser. It doesn't work that way. We'll try a different computer. No, it doesn't work that way. So actually, before I got to that part, I did my due diligence. I actually called the publisher. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. I actually phoned the publisher and I said, like, hey, are you having a problem? And they said, oh, yes, our servers are down. We're having some sort of issue, but it'll be fixed by Monday. So that's when I got back on what the attorney tried to explain. So then she said, try a different browser. It doesn't work that way. Try a different computer, she's screaming. I'm like, it doesn't work that way. And she's getting very agitated at me and yelling. And I said, let me put it to you this way. I said, if you have a cell phone and you call your landline, but your landline is off the hook, the phone doesn't go through. Like, it doesn't matter, because she kept, and I use that as an example because she kept trying to tell me to use something different. I was like, it doesn't matter. It, if it's down, if it's down, it's down. So that's why I gave that example. I was like, if you use a cell phone to call a landline, but the landline's off the hook, it's still not going to go through. And I think she finally understood that, and that's what got through to her. But yeah, I've had to do millions of troubleshooting like that. Now that one was specifically library related because she was looking for an article. But yeah, there was many times, that things like that would come up. So that's why I really had little empathy for those tweets of people saying, I drove 2 hours and I'm angry about it and blah, blah, blah. There are, I know there's always exceptions, but there's a lot of times when you can ask questions or phrase things differently or explain things and maybe get, you get more flies with honey than vinegar. So, if you drop the attitude and, really try to problem solve and troubleshoot, you might be saving yourself some issues. So anyway, I just wanted to share that.
No, that's what it comes down to. Again, you said it right. You get more flies with honey than vinegar. And that I ain't gonna lie, I got in trouble for that in the Air Force. Helping people out fix their stuff. And I swear on all that is holy, it is my worst experience in the Air Force when you get told something that you should not ever be told. And so we were doing the G6 summit. I forget, one of those big summits in Pittsburgh back in, I don't know, 08, 09 for the government. And they were using a certain software. And before they came in, I was told, hey, know the ins and outs, the ups and downs, head to tails, everything about this software. All right, cool. Well, I was responsible for help desk when they first came in, and I was sitting in there as all these commanders and stuff were in there. I literally helped them get everything set up, and I knew everything about it. Well, I get off shift and I'm done. And they were like, nobody else knew the software. Not the people that came with them, nor any of our guys. And I got told by my chief at the time, you cannot let them know what you know, because then it makes everybody else look bad. So hold up, because I'm a nice guy and helped all the other support people that were there that didn't know this software get their commanders hooked up so that they can use it, I'm now the bad guy. Cool. Makes sense. That is the worst I've ever felt. And it's like, then why am I here? Why did you put me in that position? But yes, Studio Sec, and I reposted that question for you, Eric, because it was a question we got earlier when we were talking about threats. with everything going on right now, I feel it's a very valid question.
That is a
Um,
very valid question. So let's go ahead and let John take the first crack at it. Then we can go round robin, and then we can wrap up for tonight.
Are they
All right, John.
too low tech or busy to get into that? No. just no. I mean, especially if you're talking about being funded by an outside organization, then I mean, you can pay for people to do stuff for you as well. If I don't know. I'm kind of underestimating adversaries' capabilities. They change, and if they have funding for it, whatever the capability is today isn't going to be what the capability is going to be 3 months from now. So how long would we ignore it as a threat? Because it wouldn't be something that there's like a defined tipping point of when it becomes too much of a threat. I mean, I think you would keep that on your radar. You would, get whatever intel you can get on those types of things and adjust accordingly.
All right, Tracy.
Never underestimate an adversary. Digital colonialism is alive and well, especially in Africa, where you have China and Russia doing a lot of digital infrastructure investment, where it could go either two ways of creating a new generation of infosec folks or a new generation of infosec criminals, and this China interaction with the Taliban is no different. It is an excellent question, though, Studio Sec. I'm not belittling your question, but also you have to think about um, if the Taliban members themselves aren't skilled enough, that doesn't mean that someone else would be doing their work by proxy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's I said never underestimate, because you don't actually know who's behind the computer. So yes, remember, digital colonialism is alive and well. And I'm referring to like the olden days of colonialism, where you would take over a country's trade and things like that. Sorry, history major, I have to go there. But yeah, so yeah, never again, just like it was said, something to keep tabs on. It may not actually be an actual Taliban member, but somebody, a mercenary working in their name. There's lots of malicious mercenaries who will do that work. So yeah, I think it is something to pay attention to.
And to add something, if you do some searches on the internet and Google it, like Tracy said earlier, go look at this. I made her choke. That was good. All right. So if you look it up online, look it up on some of the Taliban and Al Qaeda and ISIS K and all those different um, radical organizations have been using cyber to a certain level. So it depends on what we're talking about. Cyber tech, cyber team. They've been using misinformation and disinformation for a long time, and that you don't have to be, high tech. That's how they're doing their recruitment across the world. When we're talking about cyber attacks or penetration or red teaming, if you will, terms for right now, but attack and cyber attacks, that's a different area. And like you can go and Google it how to do it, and you can download a free Kali or Parsec, and you can go to town. Not going to be very good without some education on it, but you can do it. You can learn how to do it. How is the best way to learn how to get better? Over and over.
and
So,
and valid point. And with the dark web and ransomware as a service and everything else like that, um, it doesn't. If they're funded, they don't have. And to Tracy's point, they don't have to be the ones doing it. All they need to do is know about the dark web, and they can go there. They can go on tour, go to any of these sites that sell hacking as a service, and just pay someone because they're funded. And on the same token, there's a lot of hacking groups out of China that they could pay them to do the exact same thing. So China may fund the Taliban, and then the Taliban funds some group in China. So they don't have to be the ones. But in the same point, they have been known, and the Taliban has been known to radicalize and socialize and recruit via social networking, whether that be Reddit or YouTube or Twitter or Facebook or whatever the case may be. They use the popular social networking services to pull these people in. And so to say they're too dumb or too stupid, that's a far reach. They know what they're doing, and they're very, very good at it. And so you have to be cognizant of what you're doing. And as far as the attacking side, they don't even have to know how. They just have to be able to pay someone. And if they're funded, they can pay someone.
And if I can put my librarian hat on for a second, I highly recommend that you read Kingdom of Lies by Kate Vizzini, which goes into all that and is a phenomenal book.
Right. With that, Mr. Cyber Warrior, tell us about Security Happy Hour tomorrow.
So tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, we are doing Security Happy Hour with 3 creators, all right, and amazing people. We have Caleb McMurtry on Sec Studio. I don't know why he goes by Sec Studio and then his channel is Studio Sec, but either way, we have the amazing Studio Sec on. I have my counterpart on Cyber Warrior Studios that does all the offensive security tutorials. Stephen Lane, Devil Ray 17, who does Devil Ray pen testing. And then, of course, I have the amazing Eric Belardo. I don't know who that guy is. He's just amazing. But I have him on
Charlatan
tomorrow.
You called me Rapscallion.
No, that's right. You're a rapscallion. Yes, that is correct. Oh, before we sign off, can I just say to one of our listeners here, we have Zoltan, right? Yoeshtet Kivanok.
Zoltan has been amazing. Look, I gotta say that man has as soon as I said, hey, tag me in this tweet, he was on it. He has shared so much. Much love to you, Zoltan. Mary, Studio Sec, Carmen, you're amazing because you're married to this guy over here, and I still have to figure out why. But
well, Zoltan's one of my Hungarian peeps, so I want to give him a shout out.
Yeah, Zoltan's amazing. I love having him. And we even had so many people in here. Fernando, thank you for joining us once again. It was a pleasure having you on the show last week for Security Happy Hour. It's great seeing you here tonight. And everybody else, thank you for joining us. And Shiny Buttons, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. I'm sure Eric appreciates it. And I hope you all tune in next week.
Okay, and last words to John real quick.
I don't have anything to say. Appreciate everybody showing up. It's almost Friday, so go to the happy hour tomorrow that they have going on, and have a good weekend.
Right, when's your next show?
So it would be next Wednesday, but I actually have something that came up, so I will be rescheduling.
Okay, well, everybody, please go ahead and follow John on Twitter so you can get when he goes live. He's got an amazing show. We always show up for him, so show up for him. Anybody that watches our show. So let's do that.
Appreciate it.
Tracy, any last words?
Follow me on Twitter, InfoSec Sherpa. Please subscribe to my news roundup. It's infosec-sherpa.medium.com. Have a great long weekend, everyone. Be safe, and love to all the folks affected by Hurricane Ida, especially here, in the Mid-Atlantic region and also down in Louisiana.
Thank you very much, everybody. And with that, I want to wish everybody a good long weekend, and don't forget, practice safe cyber. Have a great weekend.